Hi all, this is our lesson on metaphor from Monday. So prior to this we did one on symbolism, and now as we get into metaphors and different types of metaphors, these are going to be important for the stories we're reading now by Sandra Cisneros, and they're also going to be important as you go on to any other classes that are analyzing literature. You're going to want to be able to recognize metaphors and then analyze them. And so here we'll have our start. First thing about metaphors is that they're pretty common in literature and even in the way we speak in everyday life. You'll see some examples of that. But a metaphor is a direct comparison of two dissimilar things without using like or as. So the three different parts of that definition: firstly, it's a direct comparison. And often many metaphors are such a direct comparison that they'll just use the verb to be. For example, the sky was falling, or time was an endless road. So both of those things, to say that this thing is the other thing, is obviously figurative language because of the fact that these things are nothing alike. That's the second part of our definition. And so the third part, without using like or as, we'll get into that next when we go into similes. But essentially that's what a metaphor is. You're taking one thing and you're describing it as something that is completely unlike itself, to make a point. So taking a look at this example, time was an endless road stretching out before me. You can see the two different colors of text here of the two things that are being compared. And again, we have a to be was. Time was an endless road. It's not time was like an endless road, but time was an endless road. These comparisons are meant to tell us something about the character whose words or thoughts they are. So assuming that this is from a larger work of fiction, we can speculate as to the character's state of mind based on this. Okay, so if time is being described as an endless road, what are the implications of that? So if it's a road, then that implies a larger journey. That also implies some work on your part, or a road is for traveling down. And so if time is being described in this way, it's almost like the person feels bored or lonely or lost or desperate, or doesn't see a way out of the situation they're in. Can you write a metaphor of your own? Again, you'll have to compare directly two things that are unalike without using like or as. Maybe give it a try. A simile is another type of metaphor that does use like or as. It's still a comparison of two things that are not alike. The only difference with a simile is that the comparison seems a little bit more direct to us. So rather than defining one thing as another thing, as metaphors often do, a simile is just going to be right out front with it. This thing is like this other thing. This thing behaves as this other thing behaves. So a couple examples here. The train lurched and screamed like a drunken fool. You are annoying as a mosquito. Have patience. Dinner will be ready soon. In both of these examples, we're having one thing that's compared to another thing, a train and a drunken fool, you and a mosquito. Neither of these things are like the other thing, but in each of these instances, we can see a larger point that the author might be trying to make. This could be describing how unstable the person feels on the train. Obviously, this next example is trying to highlight someone who's very short on patience, and in the larger context of whatever work these sentences would appear in, they would be able to tell us something deeper about that character. They would be able to tell us something deeper about the scenario. So, can you write your own simile? Lastly, we have the hyperbole. This is the one that I feel is most common in the way that we speak. Most famous hyperbole might be, I've told you 1,000,000 times to wash the dishes, or what have you. So obviously, you probably didn't tell the person something 1,000,000 times, unless you've known each other a really, really long time. But the whole point of a hyperbole, as in the example that I just shared, is to exaggerate or make more of something in order to make a point. So each time the teacher opened her mouth, years would go by before she finished making her point. And the music was loud enough to resurrect his ancestors. So these are exaggerations. Music, most people believe, can't wake the dead. The teacher can't take years to make her point. But again, it tells you something about the state of mind of the person, the narrator, who's sharing these words with us in this story. So try writing a hyperbole of your own. Again, they're fairly common in our everyday language use. Lastly, we have these few examples. So if you want to check your recognition or your knowledge, take a look through these and see if you can decide. Is it a metaphor, a simile, or a hyperbole? And how do you know? So it's raining cats and dogs out there. You are my sunshine. The exit sign winked at her from across the room. The word stuck in his throat like a jagged rock. I can't find it. I've looked literally everywhere. It's gone. This document is available on Blackboard under our figurative language folder, and it's also been sent in an email to you as well.